Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. A couple days later than I wanted it to be, but I'm glad I'm finally getting it up. Now, I want to talk today about beginner's cameras. My beginner camera was a Sony DSCH300, which I have right here, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was back in 2017, I was in Disney, and I was taking all of my photos on my iPhone that I had. And at the time, it was the most current iPhone, so it had the most current camera specs and all that stuff. And I still use those photos from that trip to this day that I took with my iPhone. You guys will see me post those Disney pictures. I usually put those up on Mondays, but those are all with my phone. And the phone worked for a really long time, and it still works to this day. I still take pictures with my phone all the time. But I started asking myself, I've been into photography for a really long time. Why have I never invested in a camera? So I did. I did my research. I watched review videos on YouTube. I read a lot of reviews for beginner's cameras because I didn't want to jump into a super expensive camera right off the bat. I would have no idea what I was doing with it. And I wanted to kind of start off slow and then upgrade, every year, every couple of years. I ended up going with the Sony, and I fell in love with this camera. It did everything I possibly wanted it to do. It has a 35 times optical zoom, and it's a 20.1 megapixel camera. Now, to a beginner, that is more than enough. And at the time, I would have considered myself a beginner, especially when it came to cameras. I mean, I've been into photography for over 10 years, but I never went anywhere with it. I mean, I used to take photos with an old school digital camera like this. But to me, it was just about taking the picture, seeing something, thinking in your head that would make a great picture, and then taking it. Gear was never really something that I had on my mind until I really started wanting to build my portfolio, and I really started caring about the photos and the photo quality, what I was putting out there. And I had this camera for a little over a year, and then I upgraded to the Nikon D3500, and I'm even more blown away with that camera. The one thing I will say about this camera, and luckily I did my research because it would have been pretty disappointing if I thought I would be able to do this and then I got the camera and I couldn't, but the Sony DSCH300 does not have an interchangeable lens. So, the lens that's on there and the optical zoom that's on there, that's what you got, which is fine because that's plenty. I mean, I could go out there still and use this camera and never touch my Nikon, and I could still put out incredible photos. I could do the same with my phone. But to me, I'm a firm believer that the photographer makes the photographer, not the gear. However, I do think gear is important because everybody has their own style of photography. I know I talk about this a lot. I'm more of a nature photographer. I have a friend that's a sports photographer. I have another friend that likes to do cities. Everyone has their own style. And different gears go better with different styles, just like different cameras do. But this video is more for people who might be watching and thinking in their head, I want to get more into photography. I think it's time to get a camera. Do your research. YouTube a bunch of different cameras. Go on Google. Go on different websites. Make sure you read your own facts. But I suggest the Sony DSCH300. And, if anyone has any questions about it, they can obviously go online. They can message me. But this was my first camera, and I wouldn't have changed it for anything. Now I'm on the Nikon D3500, and I'll probably have that camera for another year or two. And then I'll upgrade. And I think it's important to really get to know your camera. And, once it becomes second nature, you can go out there and you can get whatever photo you want to get so quickly. When you're new with a camera, you'll be sitting there and you'll be in the field and you'll be taking photos, but you have to, you're not necessarily wasting time, but you might be wasting different lights or shadows trying to figure out, I want to get this photo, but where is it in my settings? I forget. When you get a new camera, play with it as much as you possibly can so that when you're actually in that moment taking that photo, you know your camera. You know what you have to do and what setting you have to go to. You can do it very quickly, and then you're ready to go. So that's my video, guys. Again, this was my first camera, Sony DSCH300 Cybershot. Loved it. Incredible camera. I still use it to this day. It's my girlfriend's camera now, but I can still use it. And I still like comparing the photos I took with this camera to the photos that I take with my new one, and then the photos I take with my phone. You know, it's just something that I think is important because you can really see when you look at different photos from different cameras, you can see the differences. That doesn't mean because this photo pulls a little more detail out, it doesn't mean that that necessarily is a bad photo. It's just different gear is going to give you different results. So always do your research, learn your camera. I would say never go and buying something blind because gear is expensive. And, you know, it's an investment. And you really need to take time and consideration into it and when you're, you know, making that decision. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you would give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and then follow me on Instagram, like me on Facebook. Thanks, guys.